Today, my guest is Leslie Karst, and she has lots of stories to tell about her books. Hi, Leslie.
Hello, Patsy. Good to see you.
Okay, aloha. We can say that because, well, you spend part of your time in the States and, well, in the States.
All
I,
of the time in the
it's
States, but
mental. It's mental. I was, when I was arranging this interview, I had kept thinking, you're so far away. You're in Hawaii. And it's like a long distance call. It's
I
crazy.
know the magic of Zoom. It's
I
fabulous.
it
But yes, it's true. I spend half of my time in Hilo, Hawaii, and half of my time in Santa Cruz, California, which is where I am right now.
and but you're wearing one of your shirts just to remind us that
I'm wearing an aloha shirt to celebrate the release of my new book. So
exactly the new series is in Hawaii, so it's really exciting. I want to show people. I always like to show people your books and what we're going to be talking about, so they can have it in their heads. And here we are. You can talk about them. We have three of your great books. So first, we have Justice is Served. Tell us about that one.
So that's a memoir that I wrote. It came out about a year ago. It's the story, the true story of my finagling my way into hosting an intimate dinner party for Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, her charming and dapper husband, Marty, and my mom and dad, my wife, Robin, and then in my parents' den, five federal marshals. And it's a story of basically the dinner itself and how it came to be and my angsting and obsessing over it, but how it completely changed my life having done that. So, and I'm very excited because the the book just in the last few weeks has won two awards. The Silver Award for the Independent Book Publishers Association, the Ben Franklin Award, and the IPPY Award. So I'm very excited about that.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah,
Well, it's a lovely book. It's so much fun to read. And as you said, it's real. You really did it. I mean, not many people
it's
say
still pretty amazing.
for art. It's just fantastic. The next one is book 6 in your Sally Solari Mystery Series.
Right.
And that one is set, well, where you are right now, right?
In Santa Cruz, California, yes. Sally is a fourth generation Italian gal. They're Italian fishermen settled in Santa Cruz starting in the 1890s and have been a huge influence on this area. The whole northern coast of California, all the fishermen's wharves in Santa Cruz and Monterey, Cannery Row, but in Santa Cruz as well. Her family owns a Italian seafood restaurant out on the Santa Cruz Wharf, which just celebrated its 100 years anniversary recently. And in book one of the series, Sally's uh, aunt, Letta, who owns a more trendy upscale restaurant called Gauguin, is found stabbed to death in the garde manger of her restaurant. Sally ends up inheriting this restaurant, which sets off the dynamic for all six books because her father starts thinking she's looking down on her Italian heritage, and they love each other. But anyway, in A Sense for Murder is the most recent book, and in it Sally once again undertakes to solve a mystery.
Uh-huh. Yes, she does. It's based on food, and obviously you like food.
I
So,
love food.
and the new series, of course, and this is book number 1, Molten Death, and we're going to have some more food.
Yes, it's not really the Sally Solari series is, I think I would call Valerie Corbin is actually had been a cook for her life, and she comes to Hawaii on vacation with her wife Kristen. So there's a lot of food in it because she loves food. But in that book, in chapter one, I'm not giving anything away. They hike out to see the active lava flow, and while Kristen and their buddy local surfing boy Isaac are off taking pictures, Valerie comes across what she thinks is a boot in the hot lava, only to realize to her horror that it's actually attached to a leg, and there's a human leg there, and it's as she watches, it's covered over by the hot lava. Of course, the other two are a little dubious, like, really, yeah, probably it was really a boot. And so she's like, no, she knows it was a body. So she spends the rest of the book trying to prove A, her sanity, and B, that who the mystery of the body was.
Well, we're going to talk a lot about that, but I want to go back since we have some photos of you. Well, and talking about this is served. It's just so exciting. When I read the book, I kept thinking, "Oh, an opportunity to meet." You want to meet famous people all the time, but boy, to actually cook for them, this.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us how this came about, really.
So you'll learn all about it if you read the book, which I encourage you to buy. My father, who's passed away several years ago, was a constitutional law professor at the UCLA School of Law. But back in the 60s, he and Ruth were both involved in international law, and they'd met each other back then at conferences. She was at Rutgers as working on, believe it or not, Swedish civil procedure. He was working on Latin American land reform issues, and they became friends through going to all these conferences and junkets, I like to call them. And so they stayed in touch over all the years. When I found out that she was going to come, well, my father invited her to come and speak at the UCLA Law School. When I found out that she had actually accepted his invitation, I said, sort of as a joke, "Oh, I should come down to LA and to you and Mom's house and cook for her." And he's like, "Oh, that's a great idea." And I went, what have I done? I didn't really mean it. So that sets the whole thing in motion.
And people really get this book. It is a great read. It's fun. Just imagine yourself preparing a meal and having to serve it to somebody. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, it was exciting, horrifying, thrilling, fun, indigestion causing all at once.
It's a really great read, and I hope people will get it because one, you learn how you decide to select a menu, all sorts of wonderful things. So it's a great book, and I encourage everyone to get it.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to do in the book was, I'm a retired attorney myself. And that was one of the reasons I was so nervous, is because, like, oh, what if she wants to talk about the law with me? But at the time I was still working as an attorney. One of the things I really wanted to do in the book, and I believe I succeed in this, is that I wanted to, there are little snippets in each chapter. Obviously it's a memoir, so it's told in the first person, but each chapter has a little 1 or 2 page snippet told in the third person that talks about Ruth and the reason she's such an icon. I wanted people who are not lawyers to be able to understand what it is that makes her so important to American jurisprudence. And so in layman's terms, I talk a lot about all sorts of things about her family life and her husband, but also what is it that made her so important and why is she so amazing at what she was.
It's a wonderful book. And as you said, you are a retired, I don't know.
Reformed is good, yeah.
but you've had lots of interests in your life, which is always the great thing for a writer. You have so many things to draw upon, so many different types of work that you've done. And of course, with your law, you saw different kinds of law there, but you also had an interesting early career.
Yes.
What is this with the guitar?
I love this picture. Yeah, that's my brother with me, Richard Karst. And back in I think that picture was probably taken about 1980, 1979 maybe. We had a new wave rock band called Enigma, and I was the lead singer and songwriter, and it was great fun. Yeah, that was my first. I like to tell people that was when I first started writing fiction, because writing songs, rock and roll songs, and I later had a country rock band with my sister called Electric Range, which you can listen to those songs if you go to my website. Writing songs is a little bit like writing flash fiction, because they're little stories that are told in maybe under 100 words. So that was very fun.
I think they're great. And so all this other stuff led us to a vacation in Hawaii. Is that how you got there? Is that why you moved there?
I love these pictures. So yes, yes, there's Hawaii. On the right, you see the Hilo Farmers Market with all the beautiful tropical fruit. That flower there at the bottom is called Sexy Pink Heliconia, And that's actually in my backyard in Hilo. Yep.
Uh, and there you are. This is a lava wall. wall
That's
made-
a lava wall in the place of refuge in on the Kona side of the Big Island. And my sister took that picture, Laura.
Well, it's great. And had you been vacationing there all your life?
That's a funny story. So what happened was my mom and dad were the ones that got us first out to Hawaii. They went for their first time to Hawaii in 1980, I believe 83. And when they landed, they were staying at this place called the Dolphin Bay Hotel on Hilo, which is fabulous. I recommend it. And John Alexander, the proprietor of that place, said to them, drop your bags, go down to the airport, rent a helicopter. Pu'u'o is fountaining. And they did as they were told. And this pu'u, which means a cinder cone, was shooting lava, a plume of lava, hundreds and hundreds of feet into the air. And they became addicted. And they became lava junkies. And they started going back every year. Whenever my dad had a month sabbatical, they would go and spend it in Hilo and hike out to see hot lava. And they started showing these pictures to my wife, or then girlfriend Robin, and I. And finally, we visited in 1990, and they took us out to see the lava, and we became enamored with it too. Eventually, we started going every year for vacation. And then eventually, the four of us bought a home there together, which is the home we still have. And it's all because of lava. So Molten Death, the book about the lava flow, I come by it honestly. There I am. That's the lava. That's when Mauna Loa erupted in November of 2022. And there I am.
Well, it's a great photo, and now we can talk about the full story. You know, of course, this is your second series, and so you were prepared for. I mean, I'm sure you learned a lot by doing the first series. This time, when you said, "Okay, I'm going to do a new series. I'm going to set it in Hawaii," you had a full understanding of what you had to do. Correct?
Yes, I sure learned that you learn a lot writing a mystery series. You learn as you go. But, you know, I actually had been thinking about this book since early on in the Sally Solari series. I had originally wanted to set one of those books in Hawaii, but my publisher nixed that and said, no, they wanted them all to be in Santa Cruz. So I held off on it. But I'd been wanting to set a series there for years because I love the place so much. I wanted to show those people who haven't ever been there, or those people who have been there, let them have a taste of it again. And so I think of the book as sort of a love letter to the Big Island of Hawaii. In this first book, there are scenes that take place on a lot of different places on the island, and it's a little bit of a travel log. It's a fish out of water story because Valerie has never been there before. So she, along with the reader, gets to learn about the culture and the place. I really wanted to show the Hawaii that isn't what you would necessarily see as a tourist. I mean, those things do exist. Hey, I love tiki bars. What's not to love? And I love white sand beaches, but there's a lot more in Hawaii than that. So through her, you know, as she's investigating this murder, she's obviously learning a lot about the culture and some of the parts of the island that tourists wouldn't necessarily see.
Now, when you started the Sally Solari series, of course, you went into the first book. Did you have at that time, were you one of these people who had everything organized? Did you have all your characters outlined and style sheets and all of that?
So for the first Sally book, Dying for a Taste, yes, I was a 100% outliner, plotter. I plotted the entire thing out before I really wrote anything. And I sort of, for the next book, I started to do that, but the more books I wrote, the more impatient I got. It's hard plotting a book. I mean, it's easy. I still always know what happens at the beginning. I never start writing until I know who did it and why, and the inciting incident that gets my sleuth involved in the murder. But then that's only a tiny bit, right? That's the very beginning and the very end. Then there's this vast middle that is very difficult, and you and I got frustrated because I wanted to start writing, but I didn't know exactly where it was going, and lots of people I know just go totally seated their pants, and so I started becoming what I guess a plantser, a plotzer, somewhere in between, where I would know basic stuff, but then I would start writing, and it's amazing, but ideas come to you as you're writing that wouldn't necessarily come to you if you just were just trying to sit and write. It's hard to just sit down and go, okay, what's going to happen? I mean, I do that a lot on my bike rides. I talk out loud to myself and say, well, what if this happened? I'm sure people think I'm kind of nuts when they see me. But I've become I'd say I fall somewhere in between now. Uh, yeah.
Characters do tend to take over after a while.
Mm-hmm.
When they're in your head, sometimes they lead you down the right path.
They do. And sometimes they tell you, "I wouldn't do that." In one of my books, and I won't say which one, I had it. I had figured out who had done it, and then about halfway through the book, I realized that person couldn't have done it. That doesn't make any sense. And so I changed. Which might be good because if I fooled myself, I probably fooled the readers too. But yeah, the characters become very very real. I remember once and I was talking. I remember it clearly. I was down at the beach in Santa Cruz with my sister and our two dogs, and she said something, and I actually started to say to her, "Well, I can ask Sally," and then I realized, wait, she's fictional. It was very very bizarre.
Well, well, I mean that is true. That and with the Sally series, she is so real that after
Well, thanks.
I mean you think of her as real and the family and all the dynamics. So with this one, you started off with two characters, and obviously they're going to be spending more than that one little vacation in Hawaii. What did you have planned for them? From you knew the murder that you were going to have, right? You knew that when you started.
Right. Hmm. Yeah, I really, for years when I've hiked out to see the lava flow, I've thought this would be a great place to hide a body because now I'm the lava flow that is in the beginning of my book is not one of these kinds. Uh,
Is that a little too
uh,
big?
it's what they call the drive-in volcano. You can walk up to it and stand within 20 feet. I mean, you can actually if you it's hot. You can walk right up to it, but it's like walking into an oven. Um, but one could lay a body down and then have lava come over it, and I'm sure it's happened. I bet there are a lot of bodies buried out there. um, and so that was I thought, okay, I got to do that. But then I had to come up with a reason that the person was killed, and then you need subplots, you need suspects, and so I came up with those. And one of the things I wanted to do in the book, as I said earlier, is I wanted to show the readers different aspects of the culture and the life on the Big Island. So I brought in a lot of the different uh, important aspects of it. So there's a hula halawa a company, and there are people that are protesting the geothermal energy because you want these conflicts, right? And so I came up with various different suspects, and then you want to have subplots and things, and so yeah, so I came up with all those, and but again, I kind of was sort of pantsing my way through it as well.
With all of your trips and being a resident in Hawaii, uh, you knew where to get all this information. Had you ever dealt with law enforcement, so you knew a little bit about the law there?
The police don't really play a part in this book. They do play more of a part in the book too. So since then I have gone and met some of the police officers and had a tour of the station. So I didn't have to do that for the first book, uh, but absolutely, I have a friend who is a geology professor, and he helped. He took me out to see things, and I have friends who study hula, and and also just living there I've been living there now half time for 16, 17 years. So it's been a while, and I've been visiting there since 1990. So, uh, and I have had friends who are, long-term or locals read the manuscript to make sure that I wasn't blowing anything.
Did it all come to you really quickly once you started writing?
I'd say it. The books generally I do one a year, and so it takes maybe 6 to 8 months to write it because I don't. You can only write so much in a day, and also when you're trying to figure out what happens next, sometimes you have to stop writing and plot. Uh, so I wouldn't say it came together quickly. They never do. It's hard. It's hard writing. So yeah, but six months probably writing, not every day, but several hours a day.
So, of course, as you're writing it, you might not have all the red herrings that you need. You go back at the end and try to sort of add things.
I occasionally do, but I actually, I go against all the rules of writers. They always say never edit your work, and just vomit it out and then go back and do it later. And I just can't do that. It's not my personality. So I do a writing session for 2 to 4 hours or whatever, and then the next day I open up my computer and I reread what I wrote the day before, and I polish it because I reread it to inspire myself to go on, and then I polish it at the time because I like doing that. It's fun, and since I'm pretty organized, I generally don't have to go back too much and change a lot unless my editor tells me to. So by the time, and then as I'm writing, if I realize that something earlier isn't working, I'll go back and fix it then. So by the time I finish, it's usually relatively well polished. Yeah.
So you introduced some interesting characters. Tell us about Isaac and how you came out with the idea for Isaac.
So Valerie and her wife Kristen are visiting the Big Island on vacation to celebrate Valerie's 60th birthday. I realized immediately that I needed a major character who was a local to be sort of their guide, so to speak. And he actually ends up literally being their guide in a lot of ways. Isaac is this guy is a surfing. He's a biology teacher at the local high school, and he meets Kristen, Valerie's wife, in Los Angeles a year or two before the book opens because he brings his, I guess this is all backstory, but he's brought his biology class for a conference or something, and he meets her surfing because they're both surfers, and they become friends. And so he invites them to stay in what's called his Ohana unit, which we would call like a mother-in-law unit, downstairs in his home. And so they come and they stay with him, and he's a local boy. He grew up in Puna. Local, what that means there is it's usually a mix of Hawaiian, Portuguese, Filipino, maybe some Japanese, could be Chinese. These are all the cultures that have emigrated to the Big Island over many years, largely because of the sugarcane industry. They were brought in as workers. And so he gives the local flavor. He speaks Pidgin, but he also speaks standard English, and he flips back and forth, which I thought was really important because Hilo has, I think, some of the most Pidgin speakers, of anywhere, at least on the Big Island. It's a beautiful, I guess you'd call it a Creole or a Pidgin. And so I had a friend of mine who speaks it, go through and make sure that I had it all right because it's very fascinating, the language. It's beautiful, beautiful language. And so Isaac is really fun. People really like him because he's quite a character, and he's a good guy. I really like the guy now. I wish I could know him in person.
Well, I think by the end of the book, people feel that they will know Isaac. You're right. In a way, he's one of those like an actor in a movie. He steals.
Right, exactly. Steals the scenes. I think he does. And don't worry, he comes back in book 2.
Well, sure, because it's great when you get a character like that started and people gravitate to it. And
Mm-hmm.
really, and I love the way that you intersperse the Pidgin, the language, just so nicely. I think it really not just gives a flavor, but it is, I think, it's empowering for people in Hawaii that this language is being used in writing, and it's nice.
Right. Well, thank you for that, because it was important to me to do that, because uh, not a lot of there. I mean, it isn't. I mean, in some books you find a little bit, but yeah, in some locales it's more prevalent than others. But in Hilo, you hear it a lot.
It works nicely in the book. It really gives it that exotic feeling. I think it really takes us to the islands, and when you write a scene and you make it so so interesting, you have all of this, well, the flowers, the fruit markets, everything that you put in there. It's just,
Hmm.
it really makes it come alive.
Oh, well, thank you. That's what I wanted to do. So thank you.
It is important. I like when people write about the flowers, about the food. We'll talk a little bit about some of the food too, because you can't ignore food, right?
No, I can't not write about food
Or
because
or cocktails. Let's
yeah, yeah. Well, see, in this book, Valerie had been studying to be a bartender at the time, and so yes, she loves her cocktails, as do I.
and I think everyone reading the book is going to, I want that. I want that card. It adds a lot of dimension. You did a great job with that. I really love it. Now that you've done this one, and whoa, you taking a little breather here and doing some publicity for it.
Yeah,
You were in Texas, right? Recently.
I was, although I wasn't there to do publicity. I was there to see the eclipse. It was amazing. It was great, great fun, and I love Texas. It's a great. It's. I love the people. I love the food.
So how are you going to, do promotion for this book? Of course, on the island, I'm sure that you'll have lots of opportunities.
Yeah, I've already done a couple ones there, and when I go back in the fall, I'll be doing another author event on the Big Island, and then I've done several here in the Bay Area in Northern California, hmm and then I've done a lot of things via Zoom and uh, blogs and things.
Are you doing any of the conventions?
Oh, absolutely. The next one coming up is BoucherCon, which is in Nashville at the end of the last weekend of August. I will be there, and I'll be on at least one panel and promoting the book. So, yeehaw! And yeah, it'll be fun too, because since I had that country band, I used to go to Nashville back in the '90s every year to a songwriters convention to shop my songs, and I haven't been back since. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Oh, that's a great one. Everybody's interested in Hawaii. Everybody wants to go there. So this is a sort of a great opening for them. And as you said, because you do go to many locations, I think it will inspire a lot of people. I'll say, what the heck? I need to get over there. I need to visit the beautiful
I hope so. Yeah.
volcanoes. I don't think I'd be like in walking distance. It's funny, if you murder somebody in New York, they always take you over to New Jersey and dump your body. But you're right, in Hawaii, you can go to a lava flow.
Well, right now, I'm afraid to say there's no active lava. There's no volcanic activity right at the moment, right now. And yes, it's as we say in Hawaii, it's all pow. It's stopped. But it comes and goes, so you never know. But it will come back. One thing is certain: it always does.
You've done such a wonderful job with this series. I think it's going to be a nice, long-lasting one because there are so many stories in Hawaii. There are so many different things that you can do there.
Well, I just finished the first draft of the book too. So
When you decided to be a creative writer, writing novels, what was your background from reading point of view? Did all coming out with metaphors, coming out with descriptions of locations, did that come naturally, or
well, I read. I mean, I've always been a reader all of my life, and I was an English lit major in college, so I've always been thinking about words. But actually, what I did as an attorney was I was a research and appellate attorney, which meant I wrote. That's all I did was write. I didn't go to court and argue cases. I did research, and then I wrote either memos to the lawyers in my firm telling them what they should do with regard to the case, or I wrote persuasive briefs for the courts. And writing a brief is, you know, I've actually given a talk about this. It's fascinating, and I never thought about it it never occurred to me until somebody asked me about it, and I started really thinking about it. But they're very similar because when you write a brief for a court, what you do is you set out what the facts of the case are, and then you set out what the law is, and you research, and you try to find cases that have facts similar to the facts in your case that are decided the way you want your case to go, and then you apply them to the case. And so, how you set out your facts, you can't leave any out that are important, and you can't make up facts. You have to be honest, but you can downplay and upplay them. You can make them more prominent. You can how you do it is really important. And I realize that's like writing a mystery novel. How you set out the facts, where you put your red herrings, where you put your clues, what you underplay, what you don't. And I realized that because you absolutely, when you write a legal brief, you're telling a story. You want to suck the judge in and make them care and decide in your way. And so it's actually in a lot of ways really similar. So I think it really helped me in the long run. I would never have thought that at the time.
If you write a compelling brief that interests the judge, and he says, "Oh, well, that."
And I had a good record. I won. I mean, I knew if I wouldn't, I got very good at knowing, no, we shouldn't file this brief. This motion, we'll lose this motion. Don't do it. It's a waste of time and money. But yes, this one we will absolutely win. So I had a really good percentage win rate. People, they liked that.
Okay, well, that sounds good. Although I think if you would have been in court, you would have done very well. You have such a commanding voice. I think it would.
I don't like thinking on my feet, though. It's scary. I'm the person that 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh, that's what I should have said. That witty quip or whatever.
Well, when you're writing, you have the opportunity, as you said, to go back and fix
Yes,
it.
exactly. I much prefer writing.
What authors really made a difference in your life? That books that perhaps changed your life or changed your opinion?
Oh boy, that's hard. So many. Well, when I was 16, I was madly in love with Lord Peter Wimsey.
Oh, oh my gosh! Oh, I love the book so much. What a great background!
Um,
And the number.
but I'd say that the mystery series that affect that, and I'll talk mysteries here because that's what I'm writing. Sue Grafton's Alphabet series really affected me because at the time I read it, not right when they came out, but within maybe 10 years, maybe in the 90s, I started reading her. Up until then, I'd read either, sort of Golden Age, Dorothy L. Sayers, Agatha Christie, that sort, or, you read the noir, Chandler, and that kind of thing. And they seemed very separate, far apart. And then I read her and I went, whoa, she's like blended these two genres. She's got a woman PI, which those guys never had, and who is, yes, they're sort of hard boiled, but at the same time, she's very human and, cares about people and really snarky, which I loved. And all of a sudden I thought, I could do this. And so, yes, I like to refer to my books as snarky cozies. Although the new book is Molten Death is, I don't even know if it's a cozy. I mean, it's technically a cozy, but it's sort of at the end of the cozy spectrum, more towards traditional. But anyway, I'd say Sue Grafton as mystery writers go, influenced me the most. Yeah.
Well, she was on the program many times.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. As a matter of fact, we both worked in Hollywood at the same time. She worked for a while,
Okay.
in the business.
Right. No, I know. Yeah, I've met her at conventions. Yeah.
And she was wonderful. She was wonderful. But
She must have had to really curtail her language. I know she swore like a sailor.
oh yeah, definitely. And we'd already scheduled her for Z. She was already scheduled for Z.
Oh.
We had been talking about it.
Here's to Sue.
The other thing that was we had the same we had the same background is that she worked in a laboratory when she was young. So, and I worked in a laboratory.
Oh, wow.
Medical laboratory. So we both sort of could think when she would write something that it was urine yellow, she described a sweater as urine yellow. Well, I knew what that was. you know. So
I
she
love it.
has that in her book. She has little things like that that somebody who's worked in a lab will recognize. And
Oh yeah, yeah. No, she was force of nature. Wonderful gal. Great
was
writer.
was, and I just wish we had made it to Z. But no,
Yep.
with her, of course, she would never sell her books to Hollywood. She didn't want.
No, I know she was vehemently opposed to it, which is why I was very saddened to hear that it sounds like her family is not following that wish. So
Oh no,
I heard.
she knew they wouldn't. She said,
Yeah.
they, but she didn't want to see it happen. Once you've worked on, as I did, taking a few people's books and turning them into scripts, and you know what you do to them.
You have to just wash your hands of it. It's going to become something totally different.
I did one guy's book, and I wrote the script, and he afterwards, he came to me and he said, "Well, I mean, it was his first book, and somebody took a script, and I did the second. Somebody had done a script, and then I did the second version." And he said, "There's nothing for my book in there." I said, "Don't worry, we used 120 words exactly from his 400-page book."
Oh dear.
I said to him, "Be happy. We use 120."
Yeah, really.
But she wouldn't. Although at the end, she had really the power if she had wanted to be the producer.
Sure, she could have,
Yeah, she
but
could.
that would be a thankless job, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And streaming wasn't quite as big then. Um,
No. Hmm.
Now you realize, like Lee Child, he can do his streaming now, and he can
Yeah.
control his
Right.
character. But that's the only way that a writer gets to control a character, because once
Right.
you sell it to Hollywood, you know.
Right.
But there's a point if if you want if you can't sell it to Hollywood, there are lots of benefits to that too. And Sally Solari,
Yeah, I wouldn't say no.
gonna say if they came Sally Solari, those
Absolutely. I
and
did have somebody who was interested once in developing it, and so I said, talk to my agent, but nothing ever came of it.
it takes a while. I mean, even authors who have 12 books, 14 books, 30 books, you
Yeah.
know, well, it's Hollywood. Everything takes time in
They
Hollywood.
move at a glacial pace.
Oh, and until they decide to do it, then they can,
Yes,
like
then it's
we.
yes, then it's like lava.
Oh yeah, then it is. We want those pages tomorrow. We want those. So you never know. But Sally Solari would be great. And meanwhile, you're having so much fun with the new series. I think it's really great. The name is Orchid Isle Mysteries, and I think that's so good. And you're working on the second book.
Yep, yep. It'll be out next April. I'm guessing. Hmm.
Yeah. I want to just thank you so much for being on Joy on Paper Live. It's so nice to be able to see you.
Yes, I love talking to you on the radio, but this is even better.
Oh,
Getting to-
great. And I
yep.
get to use your photos. One of the reasons I'm doing the program on YouTube is it came about actually because of AI. Somebody tried to trick me and
Oh yeah.
sent a book that was written by AI.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And when I did some investigation and discovered that the author did not have any Facebook, I actually let the so-called author come on the line because I wanted to see what they were going to do. And I said to the authors, whatever, or the bot, or whatever this thing, and I said, well, why don't you have any social media presence? I checked social media. I checked to see. And I said to this thing, why aren't you on Facebook? And this thing said, well, I don't believe in Facebook. I don't like social media. And I said, well, uh, how do you, how are you going to find readers if you don't do social media? If you don't,
Exactly.
I don't like that. And I kept saying, so I didn't continue with the interview. I just said, that's it, bye bye. But
How
you know,
bizarre. But
yeah,
you know that yeah, it could be that could be a good short story or something.
could be. So lots of crazy things happen. But on the 9th anniversary of the radio program, that's when I started the YouTube channel, because I want viewers, I want my listeners, I want potential readers to see that authors are real, and they have
Yeah.
real passion, and they have real, well, they become obsessed with their characters who actually become real in their heads. And
Right.
I think when you read a book and you feel the author's passion, that excitement, you can feel it. It resonates,
Mhm. No, I agree.
and it does with Sally.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Yay.
So again, thank you for being on Joy on Paper Live. And here's your website. As you said, you have some really nice things on the website. And everybody notice that it's lesliekarstauthor.com.
Although if you just Google my name, that'll be one of the first things that comes up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it can
Yeah.
come, and they can hear your music, which most authors don't have any music on.
Yes, it's true. Just click on the menu item that says songwriter. Yeah.
Songwriter. Okay. Well, that's great. Really, thank you so much for joining me
Well,
today.
thank you, Patsy. And I'm so excited that you've got this new YouTube channel. It's terrific. And best of luck to you. It's
Well,
wonderful.
it's just been a joy to talk to you, and
Likewise.
really thank you again for being on Joy on Paper Live.
Well, thank you so much, Patsy. Mahalo, as they say in Hawaii. I appreciate it. It's been always fun chatting with you.
Okay,
So,
bye.
all right. Bye bye.
Oh, it was so much fun to talk to her. You know, I've traveled all over the world, and I don't know, for some reason, I have not gone to Hawaii. I, I don't know. It was just out there in the middle of, I thought in the middle of nowhere. But after reading this new series, I think, I think I have to take a vacation to Hawaii one day. But meanwhile, please subscribe to Joy on Paper Live, and make a comment and like and share, because I'm just having so much fun talking to authors, and I hope that what you get from these interviews. First, I hope that you see the passion. It is passion, and all of the authors that I talk to, so many of them will use the word joy, and so many of them, well, they just laugh and smile, and they're happy when they talk about their characters, and those characters really do live in their heads. And this is what is so much fun. There are so many reasons why you should be reading. It's good for your mind, of course. And then a series like this, it inspires you to get up and go and actually, go to Hawaii and see a volcano. But that's what you get from reading. You never know what book, and you never know what will change your life. And so I hope that you'll listen to more of the interviews here on Joy on Paper Live. There is a book out there for you, and probably there is a book in you. So if you are writing, or if you dream of writing, keep listening to these interviews. One day something will spark, just that little spark will say, an author will say something like, they've had other experiences, they've had rejections, they've had problems, they've gone through all sorts of major changes in their lives. But when they get to writing, when they are writing, they are, well, they're happy, because writing, it takes you out of perhaps your own life, and you can create whatever you want. You are the boss of your characters. And if some character annoys you, you can just say, goodbye, I'm sending you on a slow boat to somewhere. And that's the fun of it. And that's the fun of being an author. And also the fun of getting out there and talking to people and meeting people. And even if your book doesn't have to be a bestseller, but you still will find that joy just doing a book signing at a library. Just one day reading your book, you see somebody reading your book and you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's just, that moment is so special. So just think about it. Think about what I'm trying to do on this show to inspire you, and take a moment to subscribe and to do all the things that you're supposed to do with this, and mostly like and share and comment, because one of the things, if you like an author, there are a couple of things that you can really do to help. First of all, write a review on Amazon. When you buy a book, write a review on Amazon for the author. They need reviews. there's a guy, Mr. L, Big L, I call him, and he he is an algorithm, but he is like a real person, I think, because he's very persnickety, and he wants book reviews, and here on YouTube he wants comments because he wants you to be engaged. He wants you to say something nice. And well, of course you might say something bad, but we hope you say something nice. We try our best here. I recently misspelled something and somebody got I don't know. Sometimes I make mistakes. Sometimes I push the wrong button and I go to the wrong screen. I did that one day. Well, I'm trying to control all of this. I was on the radio. I am still on the radio, and I've been on for over 9 years. And the nice thing is there's a control room, and there's a guy behind that glass window, and he pushes all the control buttons, and he does all the things. He adjusts volume. He does this, and he does that. And that's Big Ed for me. Big Ed has been with me for 9 years, and he is just fantastic. And he keeps me well organized on the radio. But unfortunately, he's not sitting here with me right now. And I could use him, actually. I have to talk to him about that because there are lots of buttons and whistles, and I don't know what the heck. I actually, one day, I figured out how to play the sounds, and I just went through all the sounds. It was just cute. But again, then what happens is, right now I can look at the camera and talk, and then when I have to do something, first of all, it's very funny. This is a real true story. So when I started this program, I had my reading glasses, and I put on my glasses, and of course they were very shiny. And so then I went and very nicely got a new pair of glasses that don't shine, and they're the same prescription, but unfortunately, I can't see very well with them. So I don't know. They put this whatever non-glare stuff on it, and so I'm at a little disadvantage. Sometimes I can't see all of the controls, and so I just push something or the other. So right now I'm going to push a nice button because I'm going to play. This is a song that it gives me such a kick. If you have a morning playlist, this actually is on my morning playlist. I have 10 songs that I play throughout the day, but in the mornings that get me going. And this is one of them. And so I'm playing this to encourage you to please subscribe to Joy on Paper Live so we can have fun together, because I will be having some events where you can join me right here on Joy on Paper Live to talk about the books that have changed your life.